Have you ever thought, oh my god, this person is so intelligent. They read such intelligent books, they know so many great concepts from them, and they share all these thoughts with me, and every time I ask them like, oh, where did you get this concept, this mind-blowing thing from? And they tell you that it's from some old, hard to read, incredibly boring book. Yes, not very intriguing to read. Well, I've gotcha, because today I'm going to show you the smart book, Unbearable Lightness of Being, that will suck you in, won't make you stop reading, and will introduce you to some of the most incredible philosophical thoughts that you can imagine. And it will be painless, it will be fun, and it will be interesting. So let's get into it. Firstly, before I dive in, I believe that it would be nice to just tell you what the book is about. So let's get in for the summary. The book is set in Soviet-occupied Czechoslovakia. The Unbearable Lightness of Being follows a surgeon, his wife, and their lovers as their personal relationships intertwine with political crises. The story moves between Prague and the countryside, exploring their shifting loyalties and identities. It blends romance, philosophy, and history to portray a life under an oppressive regime. As you may have heard in the description, this book is a mixture of so many different topics, but the thing is that the mixture actually works, and it's so fun to read. And I will tell you the 4 parts I really loved about it. And the first part is the thought part, because many books that want to introduce you to some philosophical questions or some philosophical ideas are just so boring. They're thick, they're storyless, they're just boring. But this is not the case of the Unbearable Lightness of Being. The author Milan Kundera is just so talented to mix philosophy with the story, and it really introduces you to many incredible thoughts. It explores the thought of the world repeating over and over again. It explores extremes and how they hurt us, and it dives a bit into psychology and many more topics. And usually, as I said earlier, these topics just blend into the story so naturally. It's just unbelievable. Yes, I must admit, sometimes he just wants to share a thought, so he just randomly pulls out a chapter just about this philosophical thought. But otherwise, it is incredible, and I just love how even the thoughts are explained on the characters of the book. Which brings me to the story part. I must say, I have never read a story like this one before starting this book. And I gotta say, the story is just so believable, but it's also so unusual, and characters are so unusual that it's just crazy. And I really love the story about this book because it makes the philosophy part so easy, comprehensible, because all the thoughts are explained on the characters. Everything is revolving around the characters in this book, and even if you aren't into philosophy, you can literally read this as a love romance novel, which is just such a great idea, and I love how it's executed here. First, the history part. This book is set, as I said in the beginning, in the year 1968 and the following years, and it really shows you what happened in the Czechoslovakia, my country, back in those years. If you don't know what happened, after Second World War, there was a communist regime in this country. Then the communists wanted to make it more free, so they started to open the borders a bit more. The people started to get happier, and the Soviets didn't like it, so they and other states of the Warsaw Pact invaded Czechoslovakia in the year 1968, and then the cruel regime was back. And this book really shows how the people here coped with the whole thing, how they lived, and how the regime looked like, how the life under the regime looked like. And it was so interesting to see that. Firstly, because it's just my country's history, and it's, I think, important to know about your ancestors. But second, it really shows the Russian tactics and also overall brutality. And I believe that this is incredibly important to remember in times like these when there's ongoing Russian invasion to Ukraine, and our countries of the Western world are faced with the questions whether we should help countries like Ukraine to fight against Russians. And it really shows you how Russian invasion ends when no one helps the country that Russia invades, which was in this case Czechoslovakia, but Russia in the past 100 years invaded so many countries that you could search for these examples all over the Eastern Europe. And so I believe everyone should read this book just because of the history that is being shown in it, so they can really see the truth behind Russia's military operation. And fourth, this book is just so easy to read. And it's not just because the story is fun, but it's also because the chapters are so short. Like literally, the chapters here are like page and a half, not even that sometimes long. And it's just so satisfying to be flipping those pages so fast. And you know, it looks thick, but because there are so many blank spaces, just because the text ends on the beginning of the page, that is just so fast to flip through, and it's just so quick to read that you get a real dopamine hit by flipping those pages in this book. And you definitely don't have to be scared that you would feel stuck here. Guys, I hope this video got you interested in reading this piece of art. If you have any thoughts on this topic, please share them in comments. And on the way there, you can hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really makes my day. And if you want to watch more of my content, click the video that you can see right here. Otherwise, I'll see you next Monday. Bye!